It's great to have you with us from wherever you're tuning in from. For more information about Elevate Church or to contact us, head to our website elevatechurch.me and take us wherever you go by downloading our Elevate Church AU app. We hope this message inspires and helps you to take your next steps in your journey.
Good to see you all this morning as we actually wrap up this series we've been teaching called God Can Make a Way. This is the third and final week. But before we get into that, I just need to give you a heads up that I will not be sticking around today. I literally have a plane to catch. That's not just a Hollywood line. At just after midday, so I'll be riding my Vespa off to the sunset called Qantas Terminal 4. And I'm going there to speak, or to attend and to speak at a conference. A group of churches called A2A, leaders from around Australia will be gathering. It's actually hosted by our friends Rick and Marcy's church, Gateway Church in Melbourne. So many of you have been getting to know them in the last couple of years. Just a great opportunity to connect with other church leaders, get a sense of what God's doing around our nation, be encouraged, me personally, and hopefully encourage some of them as well. I'm speaking on resilience through adversity, and hoping that just some of me sharing around that topic will encourage some church leaders. Despite what you may have read, leading a church is not all about drinking coffee and playing golf. There's actually, it's not easy. And in fact, there's a phrase in the dictionary, probably should be in the Bible, in the dictionary now, called church hurt. And sadly, church leaders often feel that and experience that more than the average person. I wish nobody did, but sadly, there's humans in churches and capable of hurting other people. So I just hope I'm going to be able to encourage them and just let you know that when I'm going there, I'm going representing you all. I'm representing Elevate. I'm ambassador to the people there and be able to share about what God's doing here. So please pray for me. It's on my session Tuesday. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I also have a meeting that night with people in Perth online at 6 p.m. Perth time. Liz, you need to write this down. I will be attending a meeting that starts at 9 p.m. Liz knows, as one of our board members, Marco does not do 9 p.m. So pray for me about that too, anyway. So we launched this series. This is the third and final week, as I mentioned, called God Can Make a Way. And really this big idea that nothing is impossible for God. He doesn't see anything as impossible, no barrier, no hard time, nothing. And knowing that hopefully builds more faith in us, that when we can't see a way, we know that God can see a way, and not just see a way, but ultimately make a way. So 2 weeks ago, we launched this topic with the idea that God can make a way through fear. That if you feel like you're crushed with fear and anxiety, and which, by the way, when people are in that place, often it's like it's like darkness. It's like my father struggled with this for decades, so I've seen this firsthand. It's like just not just being able to see a way, but sometimes not even be able to see a way through the day, let alone the months and the years to come. And so God did that with a guy named Gideon, took him from a scaredy cat that was laying low in hiding from the enemy, called him a mighty warrior when he was not exhibiting mighty warrior behaviors, and ultimately used him and grew him and led him to defeat the enemy of the day called the Midianites. Last week we talked about God can make a way through obstacles, that it is a fact in life, even for Jesus followers, that we will face walls that are trying to prevent us from moving into the next chapter or phase of our future and ultimately of our potential. And we talked about Joshua. He led the nation of Israel right up to a wall. And it's like, and you see a wall, and is this the end of the story? Is this how it ends? Because God was trying to lead them beyond to a land he'd promised them, and ultimately they discovered God had been on the other side of the wall long before they even arrived at the wall, working for their benefit ahead of time and ultimately cause that wall to come down. So I encourage you, check out our podcast, which you can get on all the podcast platforms, or if you want to be smart, you can scan the flow code on the seat in front of you. It'll download our app, and that's got all the podcast stuff in there as well. Today's very much part 2 of last week's message, God Can Make a Way Through Obstacles. I want to talk today about the idea that God can make a way through hard times. Now, little thought experiment. Okay, let's use our imaginations for a second. Imagine you're lying in bed, you're sound asleep, having the restful, calm, beautiful, deep sleep. And all of a sudden you're woken up by a sound in your house. And you're thinking to yourself, I really hope that's not an intruder. And then you hear doors opening and closing and drawers opening and closing. And you're thinking to yourself, oh no, that could be an intruder. And then you hear conversations, whispering conversations taking place, voices you don't recognize. And you're like, oh my God, it really is an intruder. And they brought friends. And you're thinking, what do I do in this moment? Shall I go out there and unleash my inner Chuck Norris on them? And of course, nothing can withstand my inner Chuck Norris. Or should I just be grateful that I sleep with my phone next to my bed and I call the police and let the police deal with it? Or do you just say, it's okay, couple of intruders, what could possibly go wrong? And roll over and go back to sleep. It's hypothetical, but hopefully your answer was not just roll over and go back to sleep because, what's the worst thing that can happen? Murder is the worst thing that can happen, just so you know. But I share that and just kind of playfully talk about that is it's like a metaphor for life, because you know well and truly that sometimes we can be experiencing calm water seasons of life. Peaceful, relaxing, everything's going well, and then whammo, from out of nowhere comes that thing that you didn't see coming, and all of a sudden everything's changed. Hard times become your new reality. And we have a choice in those situations that we're now facing hard times. We can either just ignore them, pretend that everything's fine. What's the worst thing that can happen? I'll just learn to cope. It's not God's best, but look, I'll settle for it. I know people that have got it worse, so I'll just settle for it. Or we can look to a God that can make a way through hard times. But let me today's a kind of an adult message, because this is the reality. Sometimes when we're faced with unexpected hard times, we might actually be convinced that settling for this situation is actually our only option, because we can't see a way through hard times. That's just an adult acknowledgement. Marriage has been going great. You're on the same team. You don't just love each other, but you also like each other. Wow, this is great. This is great. You're not just roommates. This is fantastic. Yeah. And then, for reasons you can't even explain, it's not. It's arguing, it's disagreeing about whether the tea towel's been hung evenly on the oven door. And you want to get back to where you were on the same team and liking each other, but you can't see a way through the hard times. You had a job, you thought it was your dream job, you looked forward to going to work. You weren't, thank God it's Friday, you were, thank God it's Monday. Yeah, I don't got to go to work, I get to go to work. And then, something changed. New boss, new colleague, I don't know. New client, I don't know. And all of a sudden it's like, this is horrible. Your tendency to worry about things. I just worry about some things. I find myself just tend to worry about things. and one day you wake up and you're having panic attacks. And your little tendency to worry has become full-blown anxiety that's consuming you, and you can't see a way through. I want to put it to you that when these sorts of things happen, and they do, what we need is a breakthrough. And I want to put it to you, and this is today's big idea, and it sounds like a little bit of an oversimplification. You're a preacher, Mark. Of course you'd say this. Well, I'm going to show you this is actually true, that God can make a way through the hard times because he is the God of the breakthrough. So, Andrew, the flow code doesn't work with your paper Bible, but for the rest of us living in 2024, you can scan this flow code using your smartphone camera. It's going to take you to 2 Samuel chapter 5. Now, while you're doing that, let me give you some context. We're going to drop into a slice of history where the main character is a guy named David. Now, this is David. Some of you heard of him as in David versus Goliath. David. But that's not the only thing he achieved. That's not the only time God showed up for him. So we're going to talk about another time God showed up for him, but it's the same guy. It's the same David who became the second king of Israel. It's that David. And interesting, well, I found it interesting. I shared it with the team this morning in our locker room. They found it interesting. And this is a bit of a spoiler. We're actually going to arrive at the only place in the entire Bible that uses the word breakthrough in the entire Bible. And it's used to describe God as the Lord of the breakthrough. So here we go. When the Philistines, and this is, Goliath was one of their warriors back when David fought him, and they were still hanging around. They were still an enemy of Israel. When they'd heard that David had been anointed king of Israel, so God said, you're going to be next. Saul, he's kind of tapped out. He's not following me anymore. I'm going to get rid of him as the king. I'm going to replace him with you. And the Philistines heard about this. Like David's next king up. They mobilized all their forces to capture him, but David was told when they were coming, so he went into the stronghold. So let me give you some backstory here. The Philistines, they were like a long-term mortal enemy of the nation of Israel. Yet just prior to this exact slice in history, David had been on pseudo-friendly terms, even though David's an Israelite, he'd been on pseudo-friendly terms with the Philistines. In fact, the story was that Saul knew that David was next man up, felt threatened, put a bounty on David's head, was out to get him, kill him, eliminate the threat, essentially. And David chose to hide out in Philistine territory. And the reason he chose to hide out in Philistine territory is because he knew Saul would never go into Philistine territory looking for him. So he's like, got this pseudo-friendly relationship. It's a classic, the enemy of my enemy is actually my friend. That's what David's been experiencing. They hated Saul, they hated Israel, but the fact that Saul hated David meant that David probably isn't such a bad guy after all. He can stay in Philistine territory. And then this happened. God changed the game for David. Now, David's been announced as the next king of Israel. Philistines are like, sorry, mate. Your welcome mat has been revoked. You need to get out of here. Not just get out of here. We're going to come kill you. We're after you. You're now the leader of the opposition, of the enemy. And this is the story and where we pick it up. Now, you would have noticed in life, even good things come with pressure. Like, being someone's spouse. It's a little bit of pressure. Just pressure to be a good spouse. Being a good boss or a good colleague, it's a bit of pressure. Like, I want to do my job well. Being a friend, good friend, this comes with some pressure. Now, in these cases, I say this, pressure is a privilege because it's a privilege that you have a spouse. It's a privilege that you have a job that pays you. It's a privilege that you have some friends. So pressure is a privilege, and that's okay. But guess what happens? Sometimes when we go to new levels, we start to experience new pressures. And that's exactly what happened here with David. If you're like, I don't get it. Well, new parents. For some of you, it's been a while, but remember back when? New parent, new pressure. This human is now going to come home with us. That feels like a lot of pressure. Yep. In David's case, new promotion, new pressure, but it's kind of like a cautionary tale for us that applies to us today. When you decide to step up, to allow God to use you at new levels for his plans and his purposes, be warned, the enemy will marshal his forces and he will concoct a specific strategy to try and prevent you from achieving God's plans and purposes. That's not in the brochure of too many people when they say, come follow Jesus. You can join the cruise ship of life. And it's like, actually, you probably need to turn to page 2, which says some of that journey is going to be on a battleship. All right, that's how it is. And the devil will try to distract us and discourage us. And some of you probably experienced that. You know, maybe you were finding or found some new levels of success or some new financial breakthrough or financial freedom. And some of your friends were like, oh, must be nice. And you find out that they've been trying to pull you down because small people try to pull you down to make them feel better about themselves when they should be actually lifting you up and cheering you on and saying, this is awesome. And if God did that for you, then the same God could actually do that for me. But that's not how small people think. Maybe some of you, you've made some dramatic progress from some destructive behaviors. And some of the old crew are like, oh, you've changed. And they're trying to, the enablers will often try to bring you back in because, again, your breakthrough makes them feel uncomfortable. Maybe you've been growing in your relationship with Jesus. And someone says to you, oh, you're so full on. And you're like, huh? What? The call to follow Jesus is a call to be full on. Hello. But not everyone's going to understand it. New positions come with new pressure. But Samuel records that David's initial response to this was to go into the stronghold. Now, for David, this would have been a physical place, like a fortress, like a refuge, Pretty handy thing to have when you're the next king of Israel. I'll just go to the fortress, the stronghold. I don't know everything about every one of you. I know a lot about a lot of you. I don't think I've ever heard any of you tell me you've got a stronghold. I know some preppers have. If you're a prepper, maybe you do. Some underground bunker in the backyard. I don't know. Give me a key. Maybe I'll come and use it one day myself. But for most of us, we don't have a physical stronghold to go to. But I want to put it to you today that we've got something even better. Or, more accurately, someone even better. Because one of the things that God is referred to, one of the phrases, one of the words, one of the expressions that's attributed to God again and again and again and again, and the words can kind of be used interchangeably. And you just heard some of them from Louis. God is my stronghold. God is my refuge. God is my fortress. God is my hiding place. And so the journey for us can look like when we are feeling like we're overwhelmed with hard times and we can't see a way through, to just sit down. And I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, but just to sit down for 5 minutes and say, God, I don't know if I can handle this. I sure as heck can't see a way through this. I need you to come through for me. I need a breakthrough. And God won't just use that 5 minutes as a temporary pause in a stronghold. He will actually, over time, start to teach us that our stronghold isn't a place, it's a person. He will start to remind us or let us know and remind us, like, I'm your stronghold. I'm your refuge. I'm your fortress. I'm your hiding place. And if that's true, that means we don't have to go to a physical place when we're feeling the pressure, when we're feeling overwhelmed. The stronghold goes with us 24/7, 365. So whenever and wherever we're feeling overwhelmed, it's like God, in that moment, on the bus, in the toilet, out at whatever, at the job site, where God, I just thank you that you are my stronghold, you are my fortress, you go before me, you surround me, you protect me. You know, when we got Christmas coming up. You know that family member that causes your anxiety to come back to the surface again, just like last Christmas and the one before that? You know who I'm talking about, stupid Uncle Harry. We all hate him, hate Uncle Harry. He's literally, I have a very long list of prescription medication that I should pass the invoices on to Uncle Harry. Thank God Christmas only comes around once a year. Uncle Harry. Do you know that God can be your stronghold when you're sitting at the Christmas table next to Uncle Harry? And he does it again? Come on now. The only people here that aren't amening is because possibly you're Uncle Harry. Yes. The people around you are amening you. I don't have an Uncle Harry in my family. Yes, you do. Yeah. And by the way, Louis and I, we didn't compare notes, but this is what David came to. Psalm 91, verse 2. David, who had a physical stronghold, must be nice. He himself acknowledged that he alone is my refuge, my place of safety. He is my God, and I trust him. All right, so insert Hollywood drama music. The Philistines arrived and spread out across the valley of Rephaim. So David, I want to say the underlined word with me, asked the Lord, should I go out to fight the Philistines? Will you hand them over to me? The Lord replied to David, yes, go ahead. I will certainly hand them over to you. Now, David had an army at his disposal. Must be nice. And yet, prior to deploying his forces, he asked God's permission. And here's why that matters. With God's permission comes the inherent guarantee of God's presence and God's power and God's protection and God's provision. Like it's all bundled. God's permission. But when we do dumb stuff in our own strength, that's not bundled with those promises of God's power and God's protection. Often it's him saying, you idiot, I don't want you to do that. So this was the pro move. David, should I? Yes, great, okay. So David went to Baal Perazim and defeated the Philistines there. The Lord did it. Woohoo! David exclaimed, he burst through my enemies like a raging flood. So David named that place Baal Perazim, which means, say it with me, the Lord who bursts through. Which other translations say the Lord who breaks through? This is it, people. This is the spoiler. It's now been unveiled. This is the only time you will see the word breakthrough in the Bible. It's not the only time that God does some breakthrough-y stuff, but it's the only time you'll see it. But the word is used not to describe like, oh, I experienced some breakthrough. It's used to describe an acknowledgement of, wow, God is the Lord of the breakthrough. Breakthrough is not an event. Breakthrough is a person. Breakthrough is someone we have access to when we follow, especially when we follow what he specifically said to do. Now, I should just drop the mic, get on my Vespa, go to the airport right now because, wow, We've arrived. We've learned this today. How encouraging. How exciting. That's amazing. God used David and the army and caused them to defeat the Philistines. Amazing. Yeah. First it was Goliath. Now it's the entire Philistine nation army. Woo-hoo. But after a while, the Philistines returned. And say this word with me. And again spread out across the valley of Rephaim. Same enemy, same place. Is this familiar to anybody? This familiar to anybody? You thought you defeated that fear, and yet sometime later, this feels oddly familiar. Same enemy, same place. Thought you defeated those marriage tensions. We've finally sorted out the tea towel hanging situation. We've come to some sort of contractual arrangement here. And then something else causes things to go sideways. And you're like, same enemy, same place. You know, the same rejection. Might be someone different, but they're rejecting you and it feels oddly familiar. I thought I defeated this, and yet here I am again, facing the same discouragement. But here's what I want to double click on. Same enemy, same place, different day. Different day, different David. And again, David asked the Lord what to do. You would have thought that David should know it by now. Just like do what you did last time. And God said, actually, this time, do not attack them straight on, the Lord replied. Instead, circle around behind and attack them near the poplar trees. Okay, don't say that. David didn't want to fight today's battles with yesterday's permission, yesterday's plans. But I find this wildly encouraging because we might have grown when the enemy comes again. And then God might give us a better plan, one that we couldn't have handled last time. But you've got more capacity now, so I'm going to give you a better plan. And maybe this time, just maybe, the new plan, same enemy, same place, different day, different you, different strategy. Maybe this is the one. Maybe this is the strategy that's going to defeat that enemy once and for all. Hello. So we can ask again. God continued, when you hear a sound like marching feet in the tops of the poplar trees, be on the alert. That will be the signal that, read it with me, the Lord is moving ahead of you to strike down the Philistine army. We looked at this a bit last week. God went on the other side of the wall. This is another example. God's moving ahead. But the one thing that's different, last time they couldn't see it because God was on the other side of the wall. I mean, they sort of saw it because they had some spies go in. This time God says, you'll actually see me moving ahead of you, but you need to look up. Which, once again, we're having an adult conversation this morning. When you're feeling overwhelmed, is easier said than done. Look up. I feel like I'm drowning. I can't even see up. I don't even know which direction is up. I'd just be happy to know which direction. At least I know where to move. Look up. But that's the genius of church. Following Jesus is a team sport. If you can't see God moving, get connected, show up, be here. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you know what? For the hour that we gather together, God might just part the waters of your soul and you could be like, I can see God move. It's just a glimpse, but a glimpse that gives you enough hope to not give up. That's why we encourage people to get connected in Elevate groups. You sit around. This week, very encouraging to know our midweek Elevate groups were like record numbers. Yeah, still plenty of room to grow, but seeming to me that more people are realizing not only can I not do this by myself, I don't want to do this by myself. I want people around me to encourage me and to point to the tops of the trees when I can't see the forest for the trees and see that God is moving ahead of you. So here's the thing. I'm going to riff on the same question I asked last week. What difference would it make when you're feeling overwhelmed by hard times to know, even before you've experienced the breakthrough, that the Lord is moving ahead of you? What sort of encouragement, what sort of faith lift would that give you? And so here's the final genius part of the strategy. Let me read it from memory. So David sat down and said, Lord, I don't understand. David said, God, I need you to explain to me why, and until I fully understand everything, I'm not going to do it. Sorry, is that what it says? I feel like I'm quoting something else here. So David did what the Lord... Oh, yeah, but God, last time, do you remember? And he struck down the Philistines all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. So yeah, we're impressed with Gideon. Good on you, Gideon. We're impressed with Joshua. We're impressed with David. But I got to tell you, the pinnacle, the absolute pinnacle of breakthrough is Jesus, is God causing his son to move from death to life and making that resurrection possible for us in our own lives.
We really hope you got a lot out of this message. If you live in the Perth area, we'd love for you to join one of our live experiences. For times and directions, as well as information, head to our website, elevatechurch.me. For those of you beyond the Perth area, we'd love for you to connect with our online experience, which premieres every Sunday via YouTube and Facebook Live, and on demand immediately after. And to partner with us to reach more people by giving financially, head to our website, elevatechurch.me, and also download our Elevate Church AU app.